The numbers on the Supreme Court already, plus this 7. Is it that in the shortest possible time, we're going to see some of them fade out or phase out of the system due to age and, of course, their retirement? Or are we just packing the bench?
Thank you, Nana. When I saw the list yesterday, I only smiled. And I said politicians will always fall on their own dagger.
Right.
I smiled because the NDC in opposition has been on the neck of Akufo-Addo for packing the courts. So if the court is full and it's still being packed, why are you now nominating 7 at a go? If the court is indeed packed, okay?
Yeah.
I'm talking about what the politicians do. Yeah. For which reason these nice people who have worked for so many years will now be seen as NDC people.
Yeah.
Because of the comments of the person who appointed them and the party in government, the things they did. The minority held several press conferences attacking the Akufo-Addo for packing the courts. Okay? President Mahama is on record to have said that the courts are been packed with NPP people, and that if NDC comes to power, he will balance it and make sure that he also appoints the NDC people to the bench. So now that you are appointing people, it means that the people you are appointing directly are NDC people. You understand it?
That's the interpretation.
Yes, no, by his own comment, by President Mahama's own comment, he is doing the appointment. And by the things he has said in the past, when he was in opposition. And these are the reasons why sometimes I always say that if we can tone down on the unbridled partisanship in our system and rather focus on the issues, it will help all of us. But because we are politicians and want power, and everything we want to find a political reason to attack it, when you come to power, you'll be found wanting because you realize that your partisanship was needless because what has to be done has to be done. That is where I'm starting from. And it's unfortunate that these judges, people who accuse them that they are NDC people, I don't know their party colors, I don't know which party they belong to. But because the person appointed them has said that the bench has been packed with NPP people, and that when it's given a time, you balance the bench. And that the NDC people should be ready to also go onto the bench. By the comment that he's the one who is making an appointment have made in the past, people can now make allusions that, okay, then now he's appointing the NDC people to the bench. I think that we should be learning from these things and diverting ourselves from it. Let's look at the realities on the ground. And then when issues come up, let's take time and look at the facts. Let's speak to the facts. We are building a nation. We are not building an NPP or we are not building NDC. We are building Ghana as a nation. So when certain things happen and you even want to criticize, you can criticize, but try and remove the partisanship from it. And we will all be better off. I personally don't have any problem with the appointment with these people to the Supreme Court. The reason I don't have any problem is that it is just a justification of what Justice Getto was trying to do. And it's one of the grounds for her removal as we speak, to remove her. Justice Tokon had requested that she needed 5 more Supreme Court justices. It became topical, attacks from party, and then later I saw a paper she wrote explaining why the Supreme Court needs more judges. She actually listed the number of pending cases at the Supreme Court and listed a number of Supreme Court judges and pointed out that even if she empanels all the Supreme Court judges and they are to sit even 7 days a week, the backlog that is there will still not be cleared for a long time.
Right.
And these are human beings. They are not remote to sit 7 days a week, so they can't sit 7 days a week. So she made the argument that whilst the public is complaining that justice delivery is delaying, for which reason people are losing confidence in the justice delivery system, she sees an opportunity that if the nation can increase the number of Supreme Court judges so that the pending cases, the backlog of cases, they can have enough people sit and dispose of these cases, is one way of bringing public confidence into the system. So she needed 5 more. And even more than that. And she even made the point that even the 5 she requested for is not enough. It's just the beginning point. But the system needs to do something for the public to know that you don't need to file a case at the Supreme Court and 3-4 years and the case is there. It is there because the number of judges who are to deal with these cases are few. And the number of cases people have found, constitutional issues that are the Supreme Court, are so huge that if they don't do anything about the numbers at the Supreme Court, okay, the petty cases cannot be cleared. This is what Justice Tokono tried doing. Professor Azan, who has actually filed against for her removal based on that, did not make the argument that the Supreme Court does not need a number of more people. I've not heard that. His point is that Justice Tokono didn't follow due process in terms of how this request should be made to the office of the president, and so Justice Professor Azan's call for Tokono's removal is not about the request for more judges. It's about the process and procedure, which I think he has he has every right to do. But the question is, if indeed the argument that Tokono has made is valid, and that we need more people at the Supreme Court in order to be able to dispose of all these cases and make the Supreme Court very effective, so that anytime cases come, they don't delay that much at the Supreme Court. The question is, if that is valid and genuine, if the process is wrong, can we correct the process without removing her? That is the question I want to ask. So I am saying that I don't have any problem with President Mahama appointing more people this, because when I read what Justice Tokono put out there as reasons for the need for more judges, I agreed with her. Because we've been in this country where you file one case at the Supreme Court, and for 4 years the case is pending. And when you look at the number of cases she listed as being pending cases, and only these few judges are the same people that will need to sit on all these cases, it's clear that the Supreme Court actually may need even more than 30 judges at this point in time if we really want to be able to speedily deal with all the backlog and the new cases that will come. And we should understand that because of our constitution and the way it is framed, every single constitutional interpretation case goes straight to the Supreme Court. It doesn't go to appeals court. It doesn't go to high court and appeal before the Supreme Court. It goes straight. So many things that, because we are running a hybrid constitution, which you will not say that, oh, in America they said this, or in the UK, we said it's a hybrid. So there's so many loopholes in our constitution where we all agree that the interpretations are not that clear. And example is actually the removal of the CJ. Which the Supreme Court itself said as far back as 2020 that that discretionary power needs rules to govern how the president exercises it. And from 2020 till now, we've really done anything. So appointment to the Supreme Court at this point in time, having seen all that argument that Justice Tokono has made, I think President Mahama is right. He's just confirming that Tokono's attempt to get more judges to the Supreme Court was the right thing to do. And I think that is how we should build a nation. If the problem is there and want to fix it, let's fix it. So if Tokono has made that argument that we need more, and President Mahama has come and is appointing more, I agree. I agree 100%. But my only problem is that when you make political comments about things like that, and now you are the one appointing people, then you give us, the public, the opportunity to criticize you, that you are the same person who was criticizing this in the past. But why are you doing same now? So it's like you are following on your own dagger. So let me hear from the
Honorable Nilante Van der Poy on this matter. The minority, I recall, rejected the nomination of two Supreme Court, or two judges to the Supreme Court. I think Justice Gewu and there was the other one, George Kumsen. But I mean, tables have turned. NDC is in power, and straight we have 7 nominations in the first 4 months.
Well, thank you very much. First, let me say good morning to my colleagues and to you and to all our viewers. And to say on a May Day like this, I sit here with nostalgia, remembering my days when I spent days like this at the Independence Square, running commentary on the celebrations by workers of this country. As a worker at that time, I admire the enthusiasm and the life that workers bring to a day like this, and I miss it. So I salute all Ghanaian workers. On a day like this, let's admire what we have contributed to the development of the country. Coming back to this issue, first let me correct one point. President Mahama never said anywhere that when he becomes president, he will balance. He gave an advice to our lawyers, and he said he's encouraging them to move from the bar to the bench, so that when their time is due, they can also be promoted to the Supreme Court, so that we'll balance the perception that the government was packing the Supreme Court with its apparatchiks. I'm happy one thing that my brother mentioned, the issue of justification for the need for more judges. No one disputed the fact that there was justification for judges. People were interested in the character and the backgrounds of the judges who were being proposed. Look, 7 judges have just been mentioned. From yesterday up to today, I've not heard anywhere a word about any of the 7 judges. In fact, people that I do not expect them to comment are even commenting about someone like Justice Sir Dennis Ajay. And they say it was long overdue that people who were far his genius on the appeals court have become Supreme Court judges. And Justice Dennis Ajay has been one of the best lecturers people have come to admire when it comes to law. And a lot of people have wondered why, up to now, with all the sort of achievements he's made in the law profession, and also at the bench, the sort of judgments is written, a sort of analysis is made on certain judgments, the sort of books he has written, journals he has written, analysis is made in law, advancing the law and the profession itself. People were wondering why Dennis Ajay has still not been elevated to the Supreme Court. So people were happy that finally he's been nominated for the Supreme Court pending the approval of Parliament. And the others, no one has raised an issue, one issue. But you and I know of even committed NPP people who at least said about the nomination of Justice Jao. Even in Parliament, we said no, as for this. Because somebody who 4 years before had one party t-shirt, contested as a parliamentary candidate, there is no way you will not expect public sentiments against his nomination. So it is not sometimes about the nomination and the proposed justices, but it's also about the persons involved. 2, let me also say this. Justice Tokonu, no one has a problem with the people. For example, I would say that one of the best people she proposed was Justice Asanti, who is the president of the ECOWAS Court and has distinguished himself so well. As a MOBA, I was so proud to have heard his name. He just not a MOBA, but was also my dormitory mate.
Oh, wow.
Yes. We left Infant Spin together in '85. You know, went to the university together. And I've always known him to be very objective, very principled. And I wasn't surprised when he became a judge. Having come from far as a village in Sefiyu also. And when he tells his background, how he was able to get to school, how he was able to come all the way from Sefiyu also to Sefiyu Buaku to Mfanspem was traumatic. The Watonchine he has to sit in. Yeah. You know Watonchine? You were not born at that time. No. You don't know Watonchine?
That's the Bedford, the bone shaker.
Yes. You understand. That's what Collins used to come to Accra. So, if you look at his background, he's somebody who felt that it's only by grace. So he has been very, very objective. People didn't have a problem with the judges. They were looking at the procedure. It was not the responsibility and the mandate of the Chief Justice to make those proposals. It's the Judicial Council. And that is why people like Professor Azan and the rest raise issues about it. And they felt that she has gone beyond her remit. So these 7 nominees are people who have distinguished themselves. Yesterday I read somewhere that one of them, I learned he's been a wonderful lecturer, and some of his students so proud, so happy. And no one can stand anywhere and say these people have in one way or the other appeared in the political color, appeared on any political platform, have said things that justify their political leanings. So these are the people when you nominate or you propose, it becomes acceptable to all. And I think that that is the way we have to build our judicial system. Because one of the key issues is perception about the judiciary. And you and I will agree that constantly in the barometer report, Afrobarometer report, we've seen the integrity and the credibility of the judiciary going down. It's because of the perception people have. Last time we sat here and talked about the conclusions of people like Kendapa himself on the way people perceive the judiciary and the Supreme Court. So we needed to sanitize the system. And that's why I expect that we will have some commendation for President Mahama for being able to choose these people who people will not have any adverse findings or any perceptions about, and rather have the confidence that these people, when they get to the Supreme Court, will be able to advance the cause of justice. Finally, let me say this. I agree. And I think that just as Justice Prempeh wrote, this is a time that all of us, at this time when we're having the constitutional review, to see how we can use the process to propose a ceiling for our Supreme Court. It's been a discussion that been on and off when people find it expedient. But even US has a ceiling. The size of US can never be compared to the size of Ghana. And I think we can have an unlimited number of judges. Sometimes delay in cases is not just about the timing or the period. It's about the diligence of the bench to dispense with justice. It's about the diligence of the bench to make sure that they are up to task with their responsibilities. Because sometimes you see, I have gone through a situation whereby I have a feeling that this case is being unduly delayed. Because some of these cases are just cases that 2-3 sittings a judge should be able to dispense with it, because ordinary person can sit down and know A from B. But then you see justices allowing, counsels to take unnecessary adjournments and give unnecessary excuses that will tend to delay. And then sometimes it's also about some level of partiality. We've seen situations where the bench has been so proactive to certain cases brought before them by the executive when it suits the executive. But then they've dragged their feet and other issues that go against an executive's stand. Let's take, for example, how long did it take the Supreme Court to take a decision on the issue of the LGBTQI law? How long? Everybody was, what is happening here? It's not the only case. How long did it take the Supreme Court to adjudicate on the issue of ROPA? So sometimes it's the way the Supreme Court itself perceives the expediency of an issue and how they are disposed towards it is what delays. So, well, I think that we could have 100 judges at the Supreme Court if they are not minded to expedite action on cases, it will not move.
Very well.
So the discussions, it's good. We should have these discussions. But I would think that our senior colleagues, our learned ones, and the distinguished Ghanaians on the Constitutional Review Committee should be able to make certain amendments and proposals that will end us, bring it a finality to the issue of how many people we need on the Supreme Court,
Right.
so that as a country, no president will arrogate to themselves, because a very dictatorial president could decide. And let me say this, I'm not saying this to say that President Kufuor was dictatorial. No, I like President Kufuor. But you could see the way he tweaked the system on the Chachi Chikata case, made people perceive that the sole intention of increasing the number, putting people on the bench, was just to be able to have his way and the review of the matter. So we need to prevent the situation whereby I become president and I want a matter settled. So what I want to do is to bring Collins, bring Elvis, who I know sympathize with me and are loyalists to me, so that they will be able to adjudicate a matter that is of interest to me. I think that is, if we can have a finality to the issue of a ceiling, upper ceiling for the Supreme Court, I think it will help all of us.
Very well. Honorable, President Kufuor started with 4, ended somewhere around, I think, 11.
Yes.
14.
14,
Yes.
No, but you rejected Jewu and Kunsin.
No, Jewu is a Supreme Court judge now. Yes.
Very well.
Jewu is a Supreme Court judge.
John Mahama, in his first 4 months, has nominated 7.
Yes.
Where are we going with the growing size of the Supreme Court?
Well, good morning to you and
Good morning.
this is my first time meeting
Elvis.
As for my senior brother, since he left Parliament, you know, he used to organize some kinky for us.
Oh, okay.
He used to organize some gakinki.
I can only imagine how soft it was.
For all members of Parliament, irrespective of your political divide.
Beautiful.
And it was a very, very beautiful occasion in the afternoons
Wow.
at the gallery. Unfortunately, he's left, and since he left,
My successor will do it. He hasn't done it yet.
No.
I'll prompt him. It is his responsibility.
Tradition goes on, so we should carry on the battle.
And then listening to him when he said he left school in 1985, I cringed. You know, I was born in 83.
That's when I left Form 5.
Yes, so he saying he left school in 1985. I take it as a privilege to be here with him.
Very well.
And
Very well.
He's been a good friend of mine also since our parliamentary days. Now, you made a very interesting analogy about Akufo-Addo appointing 14 judges within his 8 years. And Mr. Mahama has done 7 within 4 months. That's half of what Akufo-Addo did
In 8 years.
I don't know how that is going to go, whether it's going to continue.
The 7 could be for 4 years.
No, it could be, because if you look at the list, a lot of those there are almost a year or 2 to retirement.
To retirement,
Yes.
yeah. So there
Those
could be
that
more.
are there,
There could
a
be
lot
more.
of them are set for retirement.
About 5 or so.
I think they are 1 or 2 years to retirement.
The only problem we have here is the politicization or the comments both political parties have made in the past with regards appointment to the bench. It's a very simple matter.
Yeah.
Now, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama was speaking to NDC lawyers at a conference.
Yeah.
Then he advises them to upgrade themselves from just being lawyers to the bench, which then will give them an opportunity subsequently to be considered for appointment to the Supreme Court in order to balance. He was speaking to NDC lawyers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if within the first 4 months you begin to nominate judges onto the bench, the obvious characterization that anybody, any ordinary person will give to this appointment is that, just as he promised,
The balancing effect has
the
started.
balancing effect has started. But I listened to comments about Sir Dennis AJ, I will be shocked if anybody will have an issue with him. But because of comments previously, everybody will see all these 7 judges as
NDC affiliated.
NDC affiliated. Then a case will come to them. They give judgment against somebody in a different political party. The interpretation would mean that we told you so. But probably he would have done justice to the law.
Yeah.
But the interpretation will be that, hey, just as we predicted. I've heard comments on social media and other platforms that this group is just to assist this government to deal with the oral program. You see the perception? This is what people are talking about. So now somebody goes to court or the government begins a prosecution. Then somebody is sent to jail. It becomes a problem.
The Supreme Court doesn't handle cases like this.
Oh, it will get there. We will get to a time, even if it's an appeals court, you can go to the Supreme Court to seek for interpretation. We do that all the time.
On criminal issues?
No. All the time. I mean, I'm just talking about when issues get to the Supreme Court, it becomes an issue.
But opponents issue the interpretation at the Supreme,
Court.
On procedure.
That's the point I'm making.
On
So,
procedure.
that's the point I'm making. That it can land there.
On procedure.
And when it lands there and the judgment does not go in your favor, the opposition obviously will interpret it to mean that we told you so.
Yeah.
The president is saying his right. And I was just looking at the constitution when you mentioned it. 2, the other one.
This is where 144.
144.1 is
144.
the Chief Justice shall be appointed by the President, acting in consultation with the Council of State and with the approval of Parliament. 2, the other Supreme Court justices shall be appointed by the President, acting on the advice of the Judicial Council in consultation with the Council of State and with the approval of Parliament. So the President is well within his right.
Yeah.
He's not made any mistake. Constitutionally, he followed the procedures. He has nominated. Judging from the numbers they have in Parliament, you can rest assured that these 7 are already at the bench.
Yeah.
They are already at the bench. Judging from the numbers they have in Parliament, we can disagree with them. We can argue our case at the vetting committee. When it comes to the plenary, the bottom line is that we're going to have a vote. And with the kind of numbers they have, you can be rest assured that these 7 are Supreme Court judges. So
that even when there's a compelling reason why somebody should reject them.
Oh, I'm saying that, senior. You've been in Parliament before.
I've been in Parliament.
This one is a PEP system.
No, sometimes it's not always the case.
I understand, but you know that
if there's a fundamental problem about somebody not qualified to be a judge, and somebody raises it, it's in the interest of the committee and the members of Parliament to support the president in removing that person, bringing that in and getting the person off done to.
But will it happen?
It's happened before. That's the point. No, it has happened. I've been a member of Parliament between 2013 and 2017. There was a situation that were nominee to the Supreme Court. In fact, having considered it, when we raised it, Usewusu and the rest, we talked about it. And they decided that let's inform the president to just quietly remove the person. Even before we considered the nominations. Well, so it is done. So all that the committee will do is to inform the clerk to the speaker will write to the president and say they've raised these issues about this person.
I can bet my penny on this. All these 7 will sail through.
Because they merit it?
I mean, you see, they may merit it. But I'm saying the numbers they have even on the floor makes it easier for them to go through. You are talking about 2 of the justices that Section Nana Dankwa appointed. Till date, we did not even get the opportunity to even debate it on the floor. The NDC did everything possible to ensure that it does not even come onto the other paper. At every turn, they stopped it. You remember the chaos during the vetting of those 2 Supreme Court justices? It was chaotic. In fact, they did not even want to have the vetting at all. I remember Agoja. He was all over the place. They did not allow us. But I'm saying with their numbers, obviously they're going to get this through. I am saying that I don't have any problem with these people. I don't know them personally. I've only heard comments about, especially Dennis.
Sir Dennis.
Yes, that people kept talking about it, that teacher of the law. People kept referring to him as the law. I mean, I think, judging from what people are saying, Justice Jamefe, I recall during the
Jamaica Commission.
Jamaica Commission.
Yeah.
I mean, he was quite resolute, quite strong, his questioning and all that. Nobody has any problem with them. But I'm saying that let's be mindful of our comment as politicians. Whilst in opposition or even when you are in government, you should be very careful. Otherwise, you may be doing the right thing, but the interpretation by the ordinary Ghanaian will mean that His Excellency has just started executing what he promised the NDC lawyers when he was meeting them at the press conference. That upgrade yourself, when I come, we'll make sure that we balance the bench. This may be a balancing of the bench. I'm hoping that that is not it. That is my hope. I'm hoping that that's not it.
Obviously, is it time to look at the law again and, of course, a review of same? Because when it says a minimum of 9 and does not put a cap on it, then it leaves room for whoever with whatever intentions to weaponize same and to stack the bench.
Exactly. Let me, Honorable Lendi Lantis talked about the president didn't mean that the appointment of judges is the Judicial Council. So if the Judicial Council does its work professionally, then there's no reason for anybody to even complain that somebody is appointing party people onto the bench. You understand?
With you.
You understand? That's why I said that we should be mindful of the comments we make. Because it's the comments that bring all kinds of this kind of suspicion. But if we make people understand that, look, if the president says there and Judicial Council says we want A, B, C, D to become Supreme Court judge, the president has no qualms against anybody. He will make them go, and if Parliament approves them, they will go. It's a process. So this is why the comment President Mahama made at that time clearly shouldn't have been made. Because clearly, if the Judicial Council itself did not even bring the names, would you be able to appoint them?
No.
Okay, these are the issues. And on the other hand, he mentioned a judge who was his mate and everything, who was proposed by Tokonu, and all this brouhaha has come up. Now, the list that this Judicial Council has brought, that name is not there. It raises questions. That's why the way we politicize issues and the actions that are taken sometimes create room for people to come up with all kinds of assumptions, many of them without any basis, simply because of somebody has said something. That's why I've said that let's let the partisanship, let's keep them aside. Let's look at the national interest. If the need is there, let's do it. If the need is not there, let's say the need is not there. But if the need is there, and then we think that we are not in power, so we have to politicize it, when you come to power, the same ghost will now come and hunt you. And then we'll be here talking instead of doing the right thing. The law, as you have said, I agree perfectly that we should have a ceiling on the Supreme Court judges. We should have a ceiling. It's very important that we have a ceiling on the Supreme Court judges. And even the proposals some have made, I've seen here a lot of lawyers have said, even considering interpretation issues should not go straight to the Supreme Court. We should have a situation where such issues should even start from a high court or appeals court, so that by the time it gets to the Supreme Court, there are various opinions expressed on it. And it happens in other countries, and some lawyers have said, with what we have experienced under this hybrid constitution, they think that the best way is to bring those cases down to as low as maybe the high court or the appeals court, so that before it gets to the Supreme Court, other judges have also expressed several views as to what they think should be, so that by the time it gets to the Supreme Court, there are varied opinions, and then whatever comes will be better for us. So I think that the Constitutional Review Commission should also look at that, whether constitutional interpretation should directly go to the Supreme Court or should start from somewhere to somewhere. And you see, judges in other jurisdictions are appointed based on their ideological leanings. In the US, for instance, the Republicans will tell you that they want conservative judges because ideologically they hold on to conservative issues, and they believe that when judges have conservative beliefs, when national issues get to the Supreme Court, they believe that those ideas will be espoused in their rulings. And that's why Trump, for instance, has said that he's not happy with the situation where you have a lot of liberal judges appointed by the Democrats, which they believe that is diluting their values as Republicans, because the issues they hold dear as the reason why the Republican Party exists, when it gets to the Supreme Court, if there are so many liberal judges there, the rulings does not favor. So for them, they argue as to who they think should be on the bench, especially at the Supreme Court, based on the ideological leanings of the people, not because of the political color or the name of the political party. But they see this judge as a very conservative judge. So if the issues of abortion come, they know that this judge obviously will kick against an abortion. the LGBT issue come to the Supreme Court, this judge is very conservative. He will not entertain, and they build their democracy, and especially their democracy around these ideological issues. In our system, if you ask anybody the NPP, why do you believe in the NPP? It's because of the party color, who has been presidential candidate before, who is the big person in the party. Hardly will you hear many of their supporters espousing the ideological foundation for the party. Same way if you ask many people in the NDC, why do you believe the Liberal Party like the NDC? They may not be able to espouse the ideological basis for NDC choosing to be that liberal. But they will tell you, oh, Jerry Rawlings is the founder. Oh, this person has... So we have not brought our party supporters along with us in this country on the ideological basis for being a member of a political or supporting a political party. But we have brought them up based on the fact that this party is with this color. This party had this candidate or this before. And that, so I think that it also has a lot of work to do with the political parties to also begin to let their supporters know that if you are supporting an NPP, we believe in free market. And that's why we believe that private people should own businesses and all that. NDC believe that, oh, for us, we think that the state should lead. And we in the NDC believe the state should lead in business and all this. That is why we also belong to the NDC. So that people will begin to realize that they are supporting political parties based on that. So when it comes to appointment of judges in many jurisdictions, it's not nearly because somebody is saying NDC or NPP, but somebody is looking at, let's look at these judges' rulings since he became a judge. Is it really leaning towards the conservatives or rulings are liberal? And then they look at some of this, and that's how they actually balance their Supreme Court and the rest. So we should actually take away the party aspect of it and really look at ideological aspect, and that will help us in so many ways. Because see, as the democracy grows, okay, we'll be moving from this pertinence issue. Now we will get to the point where we want to be focusing on real ideological issues. And that's why I remember I listened to Professor Techua Menu said she doesn't understand why NDC, for instance, should be against LGBTQ. Because for that ideological leaning globally, they are in support of such ideology. So if the NDC is a social democratic party, and if that's the value and ideology that they support, then as a party, they should not have anything kicking against an LGBTQ. So I think that we also need to begin to look at 30-something years after, especially in the Fourth Republic, where we are learning. But as we are learning, let's begin to shift things from what we used to do, which is not helping us. And the hybrid nature of our constitution, as you said, I think that I hope this constitution review is not going to be another talk shop. Right. Because we paid over $6 million during President Milson's time to do a constitutional review and refused to implement the what is in there. From there. The previous government, Akufo-Addo government, at the tail end, they also set up another committee to also do a constitutional review. That one has also come to an end, and the new government can say, we to have set up another committee. As a nation, how many times do we have set up committee to review the constitution? How many times? So I think that I hope and pray that this particular president has set up will not become the very same thing that we experienced in the past. So that when they come up with the recommendations, there are many of the ones that we believe that are practicable. Let's work because clearly the reason the Supreme Court is overwhelmed with cases is that the hybrid nature of the constitution doesn't give us a clear direction in many of the issues. So you can find something small and you want to ask for interpretation because the constitution says it has to be done only by the Supreme Court. You run there. But if it probably they have brought it down to the High Court, maybe you think that this particular interpretation is just a small issue. It should go there. And I want to advise all of us, if we disagree with any court ruling, we should stop politicizing it and say this judge ruled this way because it belongs to party A or B. No, it shouldn't be the case. We should be looking at why we disagree with that ruling. Today, if you ask me, the ruling on birth certificate, I said that I disagree with the court. If the system to issue birth certificate is broken, tell them to fix it. Don't say that because the system is broken and people who are not Ghanaians can get birth certificate. It means that we should discard the entire birth certificate as is not proof of you being a Ghanaian. As of today, if you ask me still, I disagree with that ruling. I believe that they should have said the system has loopholes. Go and fix it. But I don't say that because the system has loopholes, then it doesn't qualify as a. Is it so? I will have my, but I'm not saying that because it's a political issue or somebody went to challenge that and it was during election time and it's because of voter or issue. That's why. So I think that this judge rule, because I would say that I don't think that we should continue that. We should refrain from labeling ruling of judges as party A or party B. But we should focus on the content of the ruling. If you disagree, disagree. And that is why we are there. We are not lawyers. Even big lawyers disagree with judgments of the court order. Exactly. You understand it?
Thank you.
So we should stop that idea of once the judge rules in a certain case, especially if it's a politically or a political party or political issue, and they rule, they want to tag the person as the cause of the ruling is party A. I think we should refrain from that.
Well, I will shudder to think that the Constitutional Review Commission will look at proposing anything that has to do with looking at people's ideology and things. The American society is built on a very solid, structured, stable, sustainable democracy. And as such, they can afford the luxury of looking at people's ideological beliefs and still go ahead with it. Our political system is founded on our own socio-cultural practices, where even in our setting, things that you think you normally would take it as petty could become a source of worry for a whole group of people because of where they come from. So something that is unacceptable to me, again, possibly will be acceptable to my brother Collins. Let's take, for example, interstate succession law. You understand? When the law was being promulgated under the NDC, a lot of our account areas were not too happy because it was going to have a systemic effect on their matrilineal inheritance system. But those of us who are patrilineal and the rest became so happy with it. So our country is our culture, diversity in our traditional and cultural backgrounds that helps us keep this country united. So I think that one of the key issues I would want the Constitutional Review Commission to look at is not about people's belief, but the person's expertise and professional competence in expounding the boundaries of the law is one of the issues I will be looking at. I will propose one thing here, apart from the ceiling. I think that the Constitutional Review Commission should make it that anyone, it becomes almost practically impossible for anyone who at one point or the other has directly become partisan in any way to be nominated to the Supreme Court. I wish that proposal were made. That sitting here, Neil and Van Napoy, there's no way I should be at any point in my time, my life, be nominated or proposed for the Supreme Court because of my political exposure.
Right.
Those are the things I wanted to look at because it will help us demystify and also remove these perceptions about people who are nominated and proposed to the Supreme Court. I think one of the proposals we should look at critically is that people who are politically exposed should know and should at no time be proposed by any president to the Supreme Court. Because you see, I didn't have any problem with the person of Justice Jau, for example. But as a member of the committee, I had compelling reasons to reject him. Because my deputy ranking member, Honorable Benjamin Kodo, on the local government committee, brought to me videos, pictures of him contesting him in the previous election. And then 4 years down the line, this man is going to the Supreme Court. If I'm NDC, I will be uncomfortable with him on the Supreme Court. So the proposal should look at people like me, Collins, and the rest, who have decided that we want to be partisan in our life, not to get anywhere close to the Supreme Court, so that people will have some sort of respect with people who are proposed and people who sit on the bench. That another thing I will look at critically is also the issue of age. Not age as the person's age, but the time, or instead of let me use the time, because one of the conditions of somebody qualifying to the Supreme Court is if the person has been on at the bar for 10 years and above. That's, to me, it's not enough. It's not enough. You understand? The Supreme Court should be the place where we're looking at experience. We're looking at the person's contribution to the law, to the development of the law, the practice of the law. So we must rather look at people who have shown some experience, some commitment to developing the law profession, and make those recommendations for appointment to the Supreme Court. It's not just about anybody. So somebody gets out of the law school, go to the bar, 10 years, and then the next time the person is a Supreme Court judge. What is his experience? You understand? So we must look at those proposals so that at the end of the day, we insulate the Supreme Court from negative perceptions from people who think that, no, this person, this person, this. And that is what affects people's comments and conclusions about their judgments in cases like he said. Sitting here, I totally agree with him. How can the birth certificate, which form the basis of the national ID, becomes illegible for qualification to be called a citizen of Ghana? You understand me?
Yeah.
I gave birth to Collins. Collins gave birth to Elvis. Elvis is a Ghanaian. Collins is not a Ghanaian. How can that be possible?
Yeah.
You understand? But at that time when Emira came, a lot of us believed that that judgment was given because the government of the time was advancing a certain political, strategy. I wouldn't call agenda, strategy. And the Supreme Court was fueling and lubricating it. That's the perception. So when we do a clear distinction between people's experience, knowledge base, and design as a qualification than ordinary number of span of time or that you've been at the bar, I think it will help all of us, because then over the period, Elvis can critically analyze and assess the person's contribution, his judgments over the from the High Court to maybe the Appeals Court, and then say that, oh, this person is really qualified to be on the bench. Right. So that we don't leave it to the whims and the caprices of individuals or of the executive.
Well, Honorable, you think that a laid down criteria will help, do away with all these perceptions about the bench being politicized and all?
Like, the criteria is quite spelled out in the Constitution, where the qualification that is clear in the Constitution. But until there's an amendment of the Constitution, you give any president the opportunity to appoint as many judges as he or she pleases. The only remedy to this issue is for the current review committee to decide that this is the limit to which we can go as a country. But for that, any president has the opportunity to do whatever His Excellency is doing. And especially the perception that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is appointing people he feels comfortable with. A new president will also do same to balance the bench. And for us to curtail that kind of problem, there has to be a limit. Otherwise, I can tell you, I was listening to one of our communicators. Of course, I don't agree with him. Oh, when we come, we'll make sure that all these people are taken off.
Yeah.
But
the cycle
that is how low the discussion has sunk to.
Right.
That
I agree with you.
I'm telling you, when we come, all those who have been appointed, get ready. We'll take you off. And if that becomes the order of the day, then we don't have a country.
Yeah.
It means anytime there's a change, even if the change is within the same political party. His Excellency Mr. Mahama has 4 years. Even if NDC wins the next election, there's going to be a new president.
Right.
That new president has a different ideology and a different strategy. You get the point I'm making. So we have to be careful. Otherwise, we might have a situation where the back and forth will keep coming. And this, we all know that there are some getting to retirement age. It's just proper that you bring in new people to replace them. as I said, the concern has been our commentary whilst in opposition and whilst in government. So anything that the government does, people look at it in a different light.
So wouldn't you give him a benefit of the doubt that this one is not related to the comment?
I hope if I was wishing if the NDC
if he had appointed somebody like me, then you say yes, what he said is
no,
really good.
you I would have liked.
Right. So the issue has to do with the commentary.
Seriously speaking, Collins, I think in Parliament, all of us, if you people get the opportunity to meet with the Constitutional Review Commission, I think the issue of politically exposed persons should be one of the issues that the Constitutional Review Commission should look at.
But me, everybody is politically exposed.
No, you see, but when you're partisan,
but the
yes,
so people partisan,
me and you,
I get you. But almost everybody is politically exposed.
No, and that's one we know.
A member of parliament for parties,
and then former party executive, and now
it shouldn't be that if I know
the sanctity of the judiciary must be kept.
I know of other parliamentary candidates, both political parties, who are on the bench. When I say bench, not the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Some are the High Court, some are the. But when they give judgment, they deal with the law.
Yes.
You know, so my point is that the fact that I have been appointed a Supreme Court judge and I'm NPP does not necessarily mean when a case comes to me and I know very well.
Collins, you know the reason why.
But as you have already said, if the outcome goes against me,
yes,
and I start
then I will with that perception.
I'll make that decision. That's the point.
The issue is that the comfort of the people, the reason people do not look at that so much is the fact that even if the person is political at the lower court and they give a judgment, I have the right to go on appeal.
Yes,
right,
of course.
So I can get a remedy.
Of course.
You see, but at the Supreme Court, people know that's the end of it. You understand? So that's that level of Supreme Court should be insulated purely from any partisanship. And that is what I see. So that the sanctity and the reverence that we'll give to the people at that level will be there. I'm not talking about the lower courts. Because even the lower courts, let me say, for example, before I became a commentator, I had my loyalties.
Yeah.
But as soon as I went through the training, it diminished.
Yeah, I get you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So even that team that I supported at that time, when I do commentary, they become more offended and unhappy with my commentary than the team that I have never supported in my life.
Yeah.
Because they thought that being one of them, my commentary should be colored and flavored in a way to suit them. But that is I was so. You see, when a person becomes a judge from the lower court and he knows that at that level, at the Supreme Court, there is so much focus and attention on you, the person himself, as he graduates through the ranks, will remove those partisanship and things that he has exhibited before. Because he will be growing.
Yeah.
And you know, Collins, you and I know, when you are growing politically, sometimes some of the things that ordinary party people do, you won't do it.
You won't do that.
You won't do it.
Very well. But let me just make one last point.
In a few seconds, I need to take a break here.
I mean, a few years ago, when you hear Supreme Court,
Yeah.
I mean, it brings some chills. And this is the Supreme Court.
The Justice Akokosas, Justice Archers, the Sowers,
both political parties, even commentary after a judgment has come. And I'm talking about both political parties. Sometimes you wonder whether these guys are really talking about this.
Managed to water down the image of the Supreme Court.
That is something that has been led by lawyers themselves.
I think we have to find a way.
Hear the commentary,
Lawyers
way of how they analyze the cases.
Elvis, let's take a break here.
The right person will follow through.
Very well. This is Breakfast Daily, the news review segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Grateful that you stayed on with us. This is Breakfast Daily here on ChannelOne Television. We're going into the issue of the fight against corruption and, of course, the revelations made by the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine. Yesterday, he held a press conference. Prior to that, he was in court preferring charges against the former boss of the National Signals Bureau. I'll take a story from ChannelOneNews.com briefly, and then we can bring some perspectives to it. Story says, NSB scandal. Edubuahin, wife, others plead not guilty to charges. And it reads, the four accused persons in the National Signals Bureau case, Kwabena Edubuahin, his wife, Angela J. Boateng, Mildred Donko, and Advantage Solutions Limited, have pleaded not guilty to all charges leveled against them. Before their pleas were taken, Counsel for the accused, Samuel Atachia, prayed the court to adjourn the case, arguing that his clients had been ambushed by the state. And then when you read further, you get all the details there. But basically, officially charges have been preferred against these 4 persons, or yes, these 4 persons regarding the National Signals Bureau scandal. They have pleaded not guilty. Interestingly, the Attorney General also revealed that there was some internet service provision deal, which
Ghana Water Company.
With the Ghana Water Company, yes. And then apparently, Kwabena Dubois, same person, was receiving some 1.5 million Ghana cedis monthly. Elvis, the approach of the Attorney General in coming out every step of his investigations to speak to the public regarding where he has got into, what do you make of that?
I have said the earlier ones were unnecessary. The one that they did yesterday was good because now charges have been filed.
Exactly.
So the case is now before the public. It means that today if I apply for the court and said I want the charges filed against these people, I can have copies of the charges filed against them. And that's how I want investigations in terms of corruption fight should be done. Because I have several jurisdictions, you know that when investigation is being done, they don't even want the public to know. Because they don't know who will be implicated along the way, that if information is out there, the person may try to cover up or run away or something. So in most jurisdictions, unless it's a politically high case or something happened that the case has to be public before it goes to court, most of these cases will be investigated thoroughly, and then when they are sure of their charges that they are going to file against the people, then when the charges hit court, then you can see media publication and the rest. But we in this country, we've made corruption fights more rhetorical than practical. I've said this because I've always made the argument that let's look at the Fourth Republic. Every government that came to power on the back of the previous government that they defeated has been corrupt. And we've seen cases upon cases in media space. If today we sit down and want to compile from Jerry Rawlings to Kufuor to Nos to Mahama to Akuba, want to compile all the cases of corruption against people in this country, minimum of 1,000 cases we will get. But if you want to tell yourself how many of these people have really been successfully prosecuted and convicted, is so appalling to look at those who actually been successfully prosecuted and actually jailed. And therefore I have said that if we do a proper analysis of this as a country, we realize that our corruption fight is not making any meaningful progress. And therefore we need to change the approach of how we fight corruption. And it is irrespective of which government is in power. Look, NPP coming to power in 2016 had given more than 100 cases of corruption can be listed, against the then previous NDC appointees. At the end of the day that NPP is out of power, how many of those appointees have actually been convicted as successfully, the cases are completed and convicted? So I have said that I think that our approach to some of these things, we need to really look at it critically. And I have made suggestions that, look, these things that we are doing, first of all, I have said that if any Chief Justice want to achieve any meaningful prosecution in terms of distance, they have to sit down with the AG and say, look, AG should require that you need special courts for high-profile corruption cases. And the Chief Justice should direct that no case should last more than 1 year in a court, because you have the opportunity to appeal. So assuming that there's a corruption case that starts from the High Court, and after 1 year is disposed of, and you are not happy, you have the right to go to the appeals court. If the appeals court you are not happy, you have the right to go to the Supreme Court, and you have the right to do a review. So it means that the opportunity for you to have the same thing that you are seeking for at one court for 3 or 4 years also exists along the chain. So the situation where you see one case staying in a court for a long time is a big problem. This Eduboyin case, as at now, the laws of Ghana said everybody accused is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So all these cases and charges and everything filed are, to say, accusations. And until the court finally pronounces that the person is guilty, before you can say, we have achieved something. And as for accusations, the accusations can be leveled at any level. But the bottom line is, especially the lawyers will tell you, in a criminal case, when you get to court, the burden on you, the prosecution, to make sure that you're able to prove the case is very high. It's very high. And therefore, if you are dealing with criminal cases, you want to be able to deal with a manner that you make sure that you can secure conviction. For me, when the case has hit court, we have been told what has happened. As at now, as a journalist, I'm yet to see any documentations that actually said he signed this money. We've seen what the AG has presented to the public. I have not seen official documents that these accusations are actually coming from. So I can only speak to what the AG has said. I can't say that I've seen, yes, this contract signed. I saw the date it was signed. I have the contract document. I've seen that this is what it is. I have not seen any of that. So my comment will be limited to what the AG is saying. And therefore, they will battle it out in court. The point is, when we talk about corruption, we should all understand that, you see, the money that's needed to build the hospital, to fix the road, to fix the doomsday we are talking about, to make sure that you get water, to solve all the problems of this country, is the money that we are alleging that somebody has pocketed part of it illegally. So when it comes to corruption, we all must support every effort to make sure that if anybody indeed took public money illegally, the money is taken back for the state. And whatever punishment that the person deserves is given to the person. Because that money is why we are having problems we are unable to solve. Because that money, if you are talking about Idibuahin's case, for instance, the AG is talking about $7 million. Do you know what $7 million can do for people who are drinking water with animals in a corner somewhere? Do you know how much it can do? Because a borehole with mechanized a solar system, and every time you put it at 100,000 Ghana cedis for a borehole that will have solar system that will mechanize it, and that even there's no electricity in the community, people can still pump water. Let me put it at even 200,000. $7 million times 15 in Ghana cedis. At the time, the exchange rate, the AG says, is 49 million Ghana cedis. So if 200,000 can do that borehole with solar, where even there's no light, you can pump it. Imagine the number of boreholes that money alone can do, if indeed the gentleman actually took that money illegally. So it will mean that if it is proven true that he took that money illegally, it means that that money could have solved the water problem for a lot of small communities where there's even no electricity. So we must all support every effort to make sure that if somebody took money illegally, it is retrieved for the state. But we must also be mindful that we should not actually destroy people. And at the end of the day, when the court proves that the person is not guilty, how does the person recover all the damage that has been caused along the prosecution because we made it a public issue, a media issue, and all the rest? How does the person recover that image? So we should do a work that indeed at the end of the day, no one is shortchanged. The state is not shortchanged, and the person accused is also not shortchanged. But for now, what AG has told us is what we are working with. But I will say that so long as it is public money, and we are being told that somebody allegedly took it wrongly, the best place to deal with it is the court. It's the court. And I only hope and pray that this court is not going to be in court for 7 years like Oponi's case. It's not going to be in a court for that long and we'll be going back and forth. It should be a case that maximum 1.5 years, 2 years, it should be disposed of so that we know what really has happened. Until it is disposed of by the court, we will only be going back and forth. But once the court pronounces, then we can be sure what has happened.
Honorable Vanapoy, the AG is confident that the charges will lead to conviction. The gentleman and his wife have also sued the AG for defamation. So how important is it that we expedite this case to bring, whether we establish the innocence or otherwise of the accused person?
Well, thank you very much. Let me say this. I totally agree with Elvis that sometimes people's reputation and image is very important. But then what the AG is doing is not different from what I saw being done in the US, for example. As soon as a state attorney starts investigation on any case, they come out and tell the public, we are starting investigation on A, B, C, D. And then when they have finished the investigation and they are pronouncing, let me say, filing charges against the person, they come again and tell the whole public, we've done the investigation, we have closed the investigation, we are now filing charges against Neilante or Collins. And then they go ahead. We all saw it during the issue of President Trump with the New Jersey state attorney. And it was clear So this is not a novelty. What I would say is that sometimes we, the media, are the ones who end up pronouncing the person guilty or not guilty even before the charges are preferred. But the AG comes out to give information. Sometimes what they do with these things, this strategy, is also to be able to get people within the fringes of that particular issue to come out and give information so that they'll get opportunity to get a plea bargain or something so that they will be insulated and immune from the persecution going on. And yesterday you saw the AG himself telling and announcing to the whole public that anybody who is on the fringe of any of these cases and is ready to testify, the state is ready to cut a deal with the person, which is normal. The last time Parliament passed the law on plea bargain. So it's part of our judicial system. What I would also say is that I think that we politicians especially should be happy that we have this dispensation so that it becomes a standard for us, because look, I am a politician, but it got to a time I listen to what people say about us, and it's like we are all corrupt, we are thieves, we are robbers, and people should never trust us. And what they say is that we practice a principle of scratch my back, I scratch your back.
Right.
So this political dispensation comes. In fact, after labeling the other group as thieves and all corrupt and things, they come and then they fail, intentionally fail, willfully fail to prosecute the cases, and then they also come in and get themselves even more corrupted. This is what Elvis and the rest have been talking about. I've read, he himself has written something like that before. Am I lying? It's written something like that before. You understand?
But is that what happens?
No. That's what I'm saying, that let's see how these cases will pan. Because to me, sitting here, to be frank with you, I was asking myself a question. Could I have dared under John Mahama's administration when I was a minister to take the decision that was taken with the issue of the Sky Train? I sat down and I was asking, really? That people could do this? For example, Palugu. You understand? When I, as a committee, parliamentary committee, we went to Palugu and I sat and I asked myself, so much has been spent. What has been done?
Yeah.
You understand?
There's nothing to show for it.
Nothing to show. Yeah. Then I asked myself, what were people thinking? That you could do this and go away with it? So there are certain issues that, as a politician myself, I shudder to think that we could even do some of these things. And I think that there must be a time to avoid a situation whereby people lose credibility in the political system, with the democratic system, which will give room for some unwanted and unwarranted, unnecessary adventurists. It is possible, it is time for us to sanitize ourselves and sanitize the system and get people to have a different perception about us who are on the field and within the space, the political space. And know that we get so many opportunities when you're in political office to advance your life. You need not get corrupted in order to be able to get those things we look. And I know many of us who are so committed to their public service and benefiting from the public service than getting corrupted. I know. From all the dispensation we have from Rollins's time to today, I can say many. And I've seen situations where even within the same political system, individuals have had differences on the way each other has, behaved.
Yeah.
What I would term as a sort of peer check on ourselves. You understand? So if we can all support issues like it, because sometimes it is not a politician. You understand?
Yeah.
I wouldn't call Eduboy a politician.
No.
Sometimes it's not a politician. The people who act in our stead, the people who give opportunity to act, sometimes become. Iti Mensah used to say something, and I heard several times, the late Iti Mensah, rest in peace, my uncle. He said until he was taken round properties owned by some civil servants and public servants, including workers in parliament. He never knew that so those people could be more corrupt than the politicians. You understand?
Right.
Sometimes the things that people do under us, the minefields they take us through when we are in political office, we are unable to see it until these cases arise. Look, I have followed some of this outside the prosecution, you know, in my own intel on this national service thing. And sometimes there was a level of official, let me say, collusion.
Collusion, right.
Because there's no way anyone sitting at that office could do what the person did if there is no some official collusion in it. And some of these things we need to talk about it to act as a check and bring some sort of respect and dignity to the office we hold. I'm not a saint, but I will say this. Sometimes by our background and our training, there are certain things no matter what, you will not force me and you will not get me to do.
Right.
I wouldn't do it. Because my grandfather told me when I went to him and I said I wanted to go into politics, he asked me a question, do you know Justice Nkumsa? I said, I've heard his name. I said, he was an orator, political orator. But when the coup happened and he was put before the commission, he could not even speak. Be careful the area you are going.
Right.
You understand? Sometimes, I remember very well when I was cited for stealing after 2017. They said I've stolen monies meant for the construction of the new Edubiasi Stadium. And there was a whole article that I was cartooned, you know, carrying Ghana must go back with the money. As a sports minister, I've stolen the money. You know, I look at it and say, could I have done this? You know, I was doubting myself.
Yeah.
Maybe I did it, I didn't know.
Or it was done on your behalf.
You understand? So sometimes it is not, if our backgrounds, sometimes we need to also look at where we're coming from, opportunity God has given us. Out of the millions of Ghanaians, God has given you the opportunity to serve. And you get certain things that ordinary Ghanaian will not do. There's no need for you to go beyond the level of acceptable practice to do certain things. And I think it is an opportunity for all of us to see how these cases will go so that it will set an example. Because so far in all this is the only person who I would say is an outright politician whose name I've heard is Professor Ameya Kofi.
Yeah.
You understand?
The SkyTrain matter.
In the SkyTrain matter. But as a board chair. But in all these cases, you see people on the fringes, on the political fringes, and not the political actors themselves.
Right.
So it is maybe through the prosecution of this that we will know that maybe this thing.
Sometimes the board, maybe a majority decision on the board.
You understand? So I think that we must allow these cases to go. It sets a yardstick. It sets an example.
Right.
Tomorrow, somebody finds himself, maybe you find yourself in a political office. Then you have it at the back of your mind. Oh, look, this case happened, and this is what
This was the outcome.
the outcome was. So, finally, I would say this. I think that the courts, as Elvis said, I thought the fast-track High Court was meant to expedite cases involving issues of corruption.
Yeah.
But it has become slower than the traditional courts. So, like he said, we must have a special courts, like we have in other jurisdictions, in China, in the Asian countries especially. And I know it's also in Kenya, for example, special courts that will deal with cases like this, so that justice, the principle of justice delayed, justice denied will not be there. Right. Because once it's delaying, people lose confidence in the system. It's like politicians, they are delaying the case because they will. And then, you see, the tendency for people to also say that these cases are political persecutions are there.
Right.
So if we expedite action on it and the case comes to a conclusive end, then people will know that it was not a political persecution, but it was a real case of corruption.
Very well. Honorable, you think if the systems in place are functioning as they should be, some of these things can be stopped even before they are propagated, before we get even to this level?
You know, yesterday, luckily for me, I was home when the press conference began. And I've met Dr. Ayene in Parliament, very friendly person. I felt very sad for him.
Oh, why?
You know, he's trying to fight corruption, but he has been accused of corruption. The dilemma, I mean, when he was narrating the accusations of someone and trying to defend himself against his own colleague in the same caucus, it was sad. He's trying to fight corruption, but he has been accused of corruption. How do you marry the two?
Mati Amedu said corruption, if you want to fight corruption, will fight you.
You see, the difficulty is that, and as I said, I kept looking at him. Immediately he finished his press conference, his accuser, A+, went to his Facebook page and with your permission, I just want to read it.
Very well.
Do you have to read it? It's so insulting.
You see, I'm trying to juxtapose the two.
Yeah.
This is the man accusing somebody of 69 million or something. 49 million Ghana cedis. But he's been accused. In fact, A+ put a post as far back as April 10. It took 20 days before the Attorney General of Ghana, the chief advisor to the president on legal matters, the one going to prosecute criminals, it took him 20 days to respond. And his response is that he is prepared to go into the mud with A+. Hey, Ghana. This is a very serious matter.
Yeah.
You are the one trying to prosecute me as corrupt. This guy is also on your heels that you are corrupt. Look at what is happening.
Yeah.
Couldn't it be a blackmail?
Oh,
To stop the person from...
you see, the things that A+ accused the Attorney General of, I'm telling you, in other jurisdictions, he would have said, no, let me recuse myself.
But you are not adding that the Attorney General actually accused A+ also of being part of
Yes.
Yes.
Come in.
So
That's
A+ is the suspect.
Yes.
in the
That's what I'm saying. Couldn't it be a blackmail?
But that is where the issue,
becomes more serious.
Interesting, more serious.
Because you accuse me of corruption, I'm also accusing you of corruption. So that's
But I'm fighting corruption. You see, my brother made a very interesting point. I don't like public prosecutions. Because sometimes if you're not careful, at the end of the day, even some of the charges may be dropped in court.
a lot.
Yeah.
But by then, you would have tarnished the person's image. And me agreed with him. If you're not careful and you make certain statements, look at, if you accuse the Attorney General of Ghana, as far back as April 10th, there has not been any comment, nothing, no statement from the Attorney General. This is directly to the heart of his reputation. The gentleman going to stand in our stead as Ghanaians in court to ensure that we collect our 40-something million, he's been told that he shared 1.6 billion.
1.6 million, 1.7 million.
No, go to the 20th, the April 10th post.
So if he has evidence, he should go to court.
Oh, you see, you talk about evidence, but when he did his first press conference, he had not given us any charges. But he had accused the gentleman.
Charges are not evidence.
No, but he had accused the gentleman.
But the charges will be based on the evidence you are going to present.
So he doesn't need to speak about it.
No, yesterday he talked about Ghana Water. There was no direct response from the people who he has accused.
No, he said there is also an investigation into Ghana Water.
To their image. For now, as I sit here, anybody listening to the Attorney General will think that the people...
That is why he has gone to court. That is why he has gone to court.
For me, I'm saying that it is not fair. I would have appreciated that. That is what he's saying. When you place the charges, then it's in the right context. Then at that point, it gives me an opportunity to challenge your charges.
But if you say this is what I'm investigating you for.
No, if you listen to his first press conference, he brought up a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Yes.
He made
But when
revelations.
today we act
Yes,
the guy's
he said
reputation.
we are investigating into this.
That goes to the heart of the guy's reputation.
In fact,
the same way A plus is doing to him.
Yeah, the first press conference, he
It's
didn't
like
even
A plus is
mention
doing
A
to
plus.
He didn't.
He just said the member of parliament.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the A plus order came
Yes.
with
Yes.
issues.
Yeah.
You understand it?
Listen, they are in the same caucus.
So,
That's what it doesn't look good.
That is why yesterday.
doesn't look
That is
good.
why yesterday he said that if taking political donations, campaign donations,
Right.
were a crime, then everybody in parliament
Should be in jail.
should be in jail.
A plus is not talking about political donations.
That is what he
that
said.
is where the danger
That
is.
is where.
The AG has said that it is a political donation.
Yeah, because
then in response to
previously.
that, A plus has said not referring to political donation.
Right.
You see,
Right.
That's what it means. It's even
Exactly.
messy.
That's
It's even messy.
It hurts me.
Yeah.
I know Ayene. I've seen him in parliament.
Yeah.
Comes across as a gentleman. Speaks so well. And he has somebody from his own caucus. They are on the same platform. On the same caucus platform.
How do you know?
Oh, yes.
A plus is caucusing with a majority.
Majority.
He's with the majority.
He's on the
But
platform.
he's not on the
Oh,
platform.
they're with him. I see them.
Wrap it up for me. Our time is up. Unfortunately, our time is up. We need to go.
See, I will plead with the AG. His reputation is the reputation of Ghanaians. If the Attorney General has a problem, a corruption tag, it's a dangerous thing. He has to find a way as quickly as possible.
Declare
Whilst he accuses others of corruption, he has to find a way of purging himself from this accusation.
Thank you very much. Honorable Collins Adomako Mensah, Member of Parliament, Fijakwabre North. Honorable Nilante Vanderpoy, National Coordinator of the DRIP program, that's the District Road Improvement Program. Elvis Dakon, Editor, News Center Newspaper, newscenter.com. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We wish you a happy May Day. Hopefully you get some rest from here.
Today we are launching the Black Star Experience.
Oh, very well.
The Black Star Experience. And I wish all of you to come over and enjoy. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be very beautiful.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. This has been the News Review here on Breakfast Daily. I am Nanatufo Boateng. Thank you for your time. But don't go away. There's a lot coming up on the show.